Welcome to the Final Drive presented by Windows 11, and a big thank you to our partner, Microsoft Windows 11, the official operating system of the NFL, an exclusive sponsor of the Los Angeles Chargers. The all-new Windows 11 is here to bring you closer to what you love, like the Final Drive. So learn about all the awesome new features of Windows 11 at windows.com. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Hayley Elwood. Joining me today is Jeff Miller of the LA Times. Final Drive looks a little different, but we want to get started by a huge congratulations to Chris Hayre, who's the new dad to two girls, Isla and Ava. They were born over the weekend. Jeff, we got a big assignment filling in for him today.
Well, we certainly do. I'm just going to do my best. I'm not going to be anywhere near. The quality of this show is going to go down greatly because I'm here, but we'll just do the best we can. But yeah, congratulations to Chris. That's fantastic. Happy for him.
Yep. So Jeff is here. We are going to recap the 20-17 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. Jeff, this game was a lot of things. Pretty, though, not one of them. But what'd you make of this matchup?
Yeah, you said it, Haley. It was not pretty. It's just way too many mistakes. And I'm not saying anything that the Chargers don't know themselves, and that anybody watching the game doesn't realize. 12 penalties. Those are the ones that were accepted. They had more than that, but 12 penalties, 99 yards going backward. It's really you look at what they did, that on top of how bad the run defense was, 2 turnovers, and they actually were still in a position they could have won that game, which I don't know what you take from that. I mean, I guess that's a good sign. There's a lot of bad stuff, but I mean, if you want to look at it from a positive, I mean, they played against, the Cowboys are a pretty good team, and a lot of mistakes for the Chargers, and they still had a chance to win. But yeah, you're just not going to win games when you're with that many penalties, and when the other team is just running it down your throat like they did yesterday.
Yeah, when it comes to the penalties, I pretty much lost track of how many times head coach Brandon Staley said that they didn't play clean enough. He said it felt like a preseason game. It kind of did at some point with just all of the flags that were out on the field. I had USA Today's Jory Epstein on my podcast last week, and she said, when I asked her, what are some factors that could play into this game? She talked about who has the ball at the end. The Chargers were able to do that in week 1 versus Washington. The Cowboys didn't. Their defense was on the field, could not stop Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Roles reversed this week, and the Cowboys obviously hit that 56-yarder as time expired.
Yeah, it was exact opposite for what we saw last week. You're 100% right. And this league is like that. And you've seen how these teams, what you saw Dallas do it yesterday, they just take it down to no time. They don't want, everyone understands now. You've got to, the old way of like trying to score, calling timeouts, get up and you score when you can, and then try to hold that. People have figured out these teams are too good and these offenses are too good. When all you need is a field goal, it's too hard to hold the other team back. I mean, look what the Cowboys did yesterday. I mean, they were not playing with any kind of urgency, really, that last drive. They knew, the last play of this game is going to be our guy trying a field goal. And if it's 56 yards, that's good enough. I mean, even a year or two ago, you would have seen them trying to push more and they would have been playing faster, may have scored earlier. Then they give the Chargers 30 seconds, and the way this league works, who knows, they could come right back and kick a field goal and we're in overtime. So people have figured out, and these coaches have figured out, they just need to drain that clock as much as they can. And I think everybody in that stadium yesterday had that feeling. The Chargers are in kind of no man's land there. They can't really call timeouts because the Cowboys are in their own territory. They're not even across midfield yet. The clock's running. The Cowboys are content to let it run out. The Chargers can't really call timeout because they're still trying to stop, on defense, and you can't start calling timeouts there. So what do? What happens is the clock drains down to nothing, and they've got a really good kicker. Had a rough week 1, but we know Zerline's done in his career with them. He's with the Rams. He was great for the most part. So, and he just nailed that last kick, 56-yarder, and but you're right. It was the exact opposite of what we saw the week before. And I think that's pretty much what the NFL is most weeks.
Yep. That's a good way of putting it. 2 penalties knocked away touchdowns for this team. One of them was an illegal shift. The Chargers were called for an illegal shift, which I believe negated the Jared Cook touchdown. You were the pool reporter with Tony Correnti. Could you just maybe explain what he told you after the game for those who might not have understood maybe what happened there?
Yeah, so we talked, and the way this works, just basically there's one pool reporter who is allowed to talk to the officials when there's some explanation necessary. And we thought pretty much that was one that we needed to get an explanation, especially after we learned that Brandon Staley really didn't get an explanation during the
Yeah.
game. So, what he said was the Chargers were never set. All 11 guys were not set, and you have to come out and be set for at least 1 second in order for the play to be for the formation to be legal. And if you watch the replay of that, they come out of the huddle. Jared Cook never sets. He gets off to the left and then immediately goes in motion to the right. And then Mike Williams is on the outside on the right. And as Jared Cook's in motion, Mike Williams takes a slight step backward, but just a little bit, just as right before the ball was snapped, he moves back. So they're both moving and the ball's snapped. And I think by the most technical standpoint, that was a penalty, but it's kind of, it's kind of one of those things where by the letter of the law, that was a penalty. If you could argue that how many times does that happen and they don't call it? I'm sure it does happen at times and they just miss it because it's so close. But yeah, that was just it was, you can be mad if you're a Charger fan and think the refs, got you, but it's, if they set just a second, I mean, just even like half a second more, if they're set, it's a touchdown. So I think by the most technical aspect of it, from what I can tell, the most technical perspective, I think it was a penalty and it cost the Chargers what could have been a winning touchdown, unfortunately.
What's the other kind of term for that? Ticky tack, if you will, sort of.
Ticky tack. That's exactly. And if this was a basketball game, that was a ticky tack foul. But
Yeah.
I think they got the call right as much as you want to say, oh my God, I can't believe this is the NFL. They're pretty exact with stuff, and they don't want to be. You can't go color outside the lines too much in this league, and so it was just an unfortunate situation. But it was avoidable if they had been a little more clean in that on that snap. It would have been a touchdown.
Yeah. So one of the other things, another factor in this game, the red zone offense, red zone efficiency. The Chargers were 1 for 4. They were 2 of 6 last week. You even you wrote, they never punted in this game. And usually when you don't punt in a game, that you kind of look at that, you're like, oh, you're blowing teams out. But they settled for field goals and mistakes happen. Herbert turned the ball over in the red zone. How do you think they shore that up moving forward?
It's really weird, Hayley. I thought about that. Herbert has 4 turnovers right this season so far, which is a lot for your quarterback, and especially a quarterback who we all as good as he is.
Yeah.
That is a lot, but it's not. He's not throwing the ball all over the place. He's not making crazy. He's not trying to do crazy stuff. So it's the turnovers are, the one in Washington, the fumble, that 25-yard fumble, crazy thing. I'm still not sure what that was. Then yesterday in the end zone, Keenan Allen fell down. Herbert tried to take the blame for that, but he's throwing the ball and Keenan goes down. It's a timing thing. So I don't know that it's anything to be really alarmed about. It would be different if Herbert was just trying to do, like I said, trying to make these incredible throws when it's not there, or just trying to make something happen when there's nothing there. But it's definitely a problem. We expect these guys to score, and as much as they've moved the ball and as well as they've done, advancing the ball down the field, it's incredible that they have 3 touchdowns, right? They have 17, 20, they have 37 points in 2 games. It's, we're expecting these guys to score 37 points in 1 game. And so it's been a really strange first couple of games in that regard. I don't think it's going to be something that we're going to be talking about all year. I think they're going to figure this out. Staley mentioned yesterday, he thinks they could run the ball maybe a little more effectively in the red zone. That would that will eliminate some of these problems, maybe, or at least help. And so I think they're going to focus on that, I'm sure, this week, and that's something they're going to want to try to incorporate more. But it's been no question a big theme these first 2 weeks, and it's the reason they're playing these close games. But I don't believe, just given the talent that they've got, I don't think this is going to be a season long issue.
One of the really surprising things to me with this game is that it wasn't a shootout. I was kind of going into this one expecting these 2 quarterbacks were just going to chuck it. It was going to be back and forth. It was a weird game, I'll say that, but for very different reasons. Did that surprise you at all?
It did. What's funny is I didn't even really think about it till this morning. Remember how Dak Prescott had been throwing 55 passes a game, 400 yards and all that. And you saw what happened when they could run the ball. All of a sudden, he wasn't passing at all. And I think some of us in the press box yesterday were trying to figure out why they threw as much as they did. I mean, they were having so much success
On the ground.
on the ground, and the Chargers were having such a difficult time up front. And I think, Zach Martin, back for the Cowboys was a huge difference. I mean, he's one of the best tackles in the league, no question. They were going behind him, and as Staley mentioned after the game, the Chargers were doing some things wrong technically up front. They were going the wrong direction. There were some bad execution, and it just blew these holes open. And so, that was not. I did not expect that kind of a game. I thought it'd be close, and I thought it would come down to the end like it did. But I thought we'd have a lot more offense, and we'd be talking about a lot more touchdowns than we are this morning for sure.
So one of the things, though, that you just kind of mentioned, it's only week 2. It's not really time to panic. There's a lot of time to sort of get things rectified and shored up. How much of the fact that this is a brand new system that you think might be playing into some of these just early things that are maybe going wrong?
Yeah, I think that's certainly a something to consider. Not being in those meetings, not being watching the tape with these guys and hearing what they're saying, it's hard to tell for sure. But I don't think it's ridiculous to think that a lot of those issues on defense yesterday were the result of these guys trying to learn a new system. And it's a lot of it we've heard. Communication is a big deal, and so maybe yesterday it's a loud stadium. There was a lot of noise on both sides. Maybe they were having a hard time hearing each other. Maybe they weren't, they just weren't, the communication wasn't there. And that led to a lot of these execution problems that Staley talked afterward. But I think there's definitely, we have to remember that this is a new defense. It's a new offense, and it's only 2 games in. And a lot of these guys didn't play in the preseason, as we know. Yeah. And if they played, they didn't play much. They didn't play together. So I think yesterday it bears remembering, just keeping in mind that there is a learning curve, and there's going to be growing pains. And I think maybe what we saw yesterday was some of that.
Now, one guy who didn't play in the preseason at all, but has been a really bright spot over these last 2 weeks, Mike Williams. He's really come alive. And when you talk about touchdowns, he's the guy. He has 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks. Last night, 7 receptions for 91 yards and the score. How impressive has he been to you as someone who's seen him over these last few years as well?
Hayley, isn't it something how you get a new coaching staff, a new system in here, and you start seeing them using him in a way, and you think, why did the other guys not do that? Like, you see him in these intermediate routes. This touchdown yesterday, that's just a quick pass out to this, out to this side, out to the flat. Basically, he's over there, and he makes 2 guys miss, and he's in the end zone with a spectacular touchdown. But that's a play you didn't see before under the previous coaching staff, and it's just, I guess it's just system. It's what they want to do. And but I think that this coaching staff came in, Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator, came in and probably looked at the tape and thought, why are they not getting this guy the ball more? Why aren't they just giving him these quick passes and let him do stuff? And we just didn't see that. And you remember, I mean, Hayley, you watched the games like as much as I did. There were games where Mike would disappear, and we kind of wonder. And I remember how many times after the game on Monday we were asking Anthony Lynn, like, how do you get Mike more involved? Like, what happened? He only had 3 targets. He had 2 catches, whatever it was. And now I don't think we're going to ask those questions all season. I mean, you've seen it. He's got 22 targets in 2 games, and again, it just goes back to you watch it and think, why in the world weren't they doing this before? But it's he's definitely a weapon, and he's able to use his body, kind of get position, box out, that sort of way we saw, Charger fans, Antonio Gates made a career out of that. Mm-hmm. Mike Williams is, as a receiver, not a tight end, obviously a receiver, though he's kind of got that same thing. He's got a big body, long, and he can kind of get himself in position where he gives Herbert a target that only he can get it. And then you see plays like yesterday where he's a good enough athlete that he can turn that quick little pass into a 12-yard touchdown. So he's if he stays on the field, stays healthy, he's going to have a monster season. I don't think there's any question about it.
Yeah, Joe Lombardi teased that over the summer, but it's definitely coming to fruition right now. And then lastly, Jeff, next up, Chiefs in Kansas City. They lost yesterday to the Baltimore Ravens. You got 2 1-1 teams going at it in the AFC West, the first AFC West matchup for the Chargers. What are you expecting out of this one?
Well, watching the very end of that game last night, I thought to myself, the Chargers should be rooting for the Chiefs to win, because now the Chiefs are going to be really, really
Yeah,
mad.
salty.
Not that it wasn't going to be a hard game anyway, but for some reason, I just feel like, okay, if the Chiefs are 2-0, they not that they're going to take anybody lightly, and they know it's the Chargers, and these teams have played each other a ton, but it almost felt like, oh boy, that was not a good development for them, the Chiefs, to lose that game. But as far as the Chargers are concerned, but I think it's going to be another. It'll be another one of these good tight games.
Mhm.
These guys have played each other pretty well. We saw last year the opener, or at least Herbert's opener. The second game of the season was a great game, and it'll be fun now. Obviously the Chargers went back at the end of the year, and Mahomes didn't play.
Yeah.
We'll get to see that matchup again, and I think it's a matchup that a lot of people are expecting for years to come. This could be an AFC West, Mahomes and Herbert against each other, Chiefs and Chargers. I think well, I'll go back to what you said earlier. I think let's go that this will be the shootout. This is going to be more of the shootout game, and then we'll get there and it'll be 17-14. But I suspect there'll be some fireworks on both sides, and it should be very entertaining. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes right down to the last drive again.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Should be good. Nance and Roma will be there. They got that game too. So it's the one game on CBS. It'll be a good one. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Final Drive presented by Windows 11.